Hello and welcome to this episode of World Anvil. Today we're looking at the natural law template. Now if we move over the natural law template, it says maybe in your world gravity works differently, or there is a magic in the air, or light travels slower. Any amount of normal or supernatural laws of nature and physics. So, any out of the normal, laws that are in place. So that's an interesting thing to place into your world, isn't it? And if we look at the template itself, there's not a lot here in terms of the usual kind of World Anvil row upon row upon row of options for you to fill in. So that has to get you thinking, what's its purpose? Why is it here? And how is it going to make your story that much better? And it's one of those templates that you might look and go, yeah, I don't need to fill it. I'm moving on. Except that this is where you can stamp your personal approach to something within your space to make it uniquely yours. So it's a really powerful template for doing that. Now, if we look at someone like Brian Sanderson, who created this wonderful magic system for his world, that was something unique. That was something that he really wanted to make sure worked well and was fairly complex. That would go here. It's how his natural laws worked. So if you are trying to create this space, there's something different. There's fogs of anti-magic that drift over the continents, or there's a nebula that inverts light for whatever reason, or magic works here or it doesn't work here, or ley lines, when they connect, they cause these crystals to grow out of the earth. The sky isn't blue. If not, what color is it? That's all very good and well. So coming up with something like that is great, and it really does change your world quite dramatically. How? Well, that's the question that you should be asking when you do change something, when you change a natural state. How does it change? Now, we've never really asked that with magic. With lots of fantasy settings like Dungeons and Dragons, we have these really, really powerful magical abilities, but we don't really look at how have they impacted and how they changed the culture. We just kind of accept that these magic-using abilities and beings sit quietly in their very medieval kind of setting. Theoretically, that shouldn't be the case. The moment magic came onto the table as a viable, actual, usable substance, the whole shape of the world would have changed completely. We definitely wouldn't have medieval knights running around in plate mail. They'd be running around in anti-magic stuff. We'd be looking at how to create that sort of thing. So that's an interesting journey that you can start by simply changing up the natural environment in some way, shape or form. Now I want to use another example which I think we're all familiar with, which is the Underdark, the space underneath the fantasy world where dark-skinned elves, or the drow, duergar, Stimflurflin, the gnomes, the Ithilid, all of those wonderful, wonderful creatures of fantasy reside in this Underdark, this cavern underneath the ground. Now, it's not a new concept. Jules Verne, almost 130 years ago, wrote Journey to the Center of the Earth, where he spoke about this underground world locked away from sunlight. Everybody so far has got it completely wrong as far as real Earth is concerned. If we go into deep, dark caves, the creatures that explorers have encountered there are pale-skinned, sometimes big-eyed, usually blind, very sense-based types of beings. They have strange geckos and crickets and odd little bits and bobs that live in the darkness where there is no sunlight. In fantasy, suddenly we have entire cities of people who don't seem to care that there is no day or night cycle. You just don't know. It's always dark. Now, that's a very different space, and one that hasn't really been portrayed if we look at real-world examples. So I wanted to say, or use that as an example to inspire you to think outside the box. Just because it's a given that magic is around, or just because it's a given that we can travel faster than the speed of light, what are the implications to that? Star Trek doesn't go far enough. They talk about subspace, allowing you to subsume your spaceship into that subspace. It has no mass, there's no resistance, so it can travel at the speed of faster than light. That doesn't make sense. It can travel at a certain speed, yes, and it doesn't require infinite amounts of power, etc., etc., etc. It's a neat little workaround, but it doesn't really work if you think about it. The point is, this template demands that if you're going to change something, or if you're even just going to stick with what has been established, that you question it and you really think about the implications to your world and to your setting. don't just accept what others have done before, because they ultimately had to come up with it in the first place. So why can't you come up with something better? Until next time, light up the forge.